I'm Beck and welcome to my ongoing series video. I started 13 new series in 2022, and while I do feel a little bit guilty about it, for the most part I think I'm up to date on some of these, so it could be worse, I guess. But without further ado, let's get into the series that I started in 2022, and ideally I will hope to continue in 2023. The first books are Magic Bites and Magic Burns by Alona Andrews, and these are the first and second books in the Kate Daniels series, and I know that this is a very long series. And so I feel like I've overcommitted because these are not a huge priority for me. They're an adult urban fantasy following Kate Daniels, and she's, I think, in her mid-20s, and she's a mercenary of sorts. And somebody in the first book close to her dies or, well, is murdered, and she has to solve his murder. And it's got werewolves, it's got supernatural creatures. So it is an interesting one, and I do enjoy reading it, but it's not a high priority in terms of the other series I've got on this list. Then we have yet another urban fantasy, and these are very new books, and I am proud to say that I'm up to date on these. So we've got the Atlas 6 and the Atlas Paradox. I read both of them last year, and I think there's a third one coming this year because this is a series that is publishing very quickly, so I'm assuming there's going to be another book because why wouldn't there be? But this is about scholars. They all get specifically selected by Atlas, who runs this kind of secret school, and it has this magical library attached. But there is a toll to going to this place that all of them slowly start to realize, and it's an intriguing dark academia story, and the characters are very morally grey, and that makes them very intriguing because you don't really know what they're going to do next, and you don't always root for them even if you do understand them. And that's why I'm liking this series so far. And I'm eager to continue because the characters from book 1 and book 2 change significantly, and I'm surprised at the characters I'm rooting for in the sequel compared to the first book. It's really interesting to me. Then we've got a comic book that absolutely captured my heart among many others. It was a very popular one last year, and that is Lore Olympus. I've read volumes 1, 2, and 3, and I believe volume 4, maybe volume 5, is coming out this year because this is published online as a webcomic, and the webcomic is way ahead of the obviously published volumes. So there is still a lot of content to collate and publish, which is very good for me because I'm a huge fan of reading these physically. So this is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and I don't want to get too much further into it because you've really got to discover it as you go. Then we've got more comic books, and that is The Search and the Promise, which are from the Avatar: The Last Airbender universe, and I think there's at least one more bind up, maybe 2, but because they're very expensive, I haven't pursued continuing them yet, but I do want to. And these riff off the show, so if you haven't seen the show, these comics are a continuation of the show. I don't know what to say, like if you're not into Avatar, then why are you here? It makes up a massive chunk of my childhood, and it starts very kiddie and childlike and animated, but when you get further into the series, there are really interesting darker themes in there that are knitted together through this found family. And then I dived headfirst into Discworld with The Colour of Magic, and I didn't love this. I thought I would because of all of the hype around Terry Pratchett, but this was just okay for me. But then I'm proud to say that the first book that I read this year in January was Guards, which I quite enjoyed. It was a very comedic story, and if I thought about it as fantasy, I struggled to read it because it was a comedy about these guards who their job is kind of moot point, like they're not really doing it very well, and then there is a dragon and they have to do something about it. The rest of the Discworld books are on my TBR. They're on my TBR cart, and I'm keen to continue, and I don't know when I'm going to continue because I'm really flourishing with audiobooks this year because of my commute to and from work, but that makes physical books harder for me to read because I have less time to read them, so I'll try and squeeze them in somewhere. Mark my words. Now, I'm not sure if this technically counts as a series, but I'm loosely counting it as a series to motivate myself to continue and finish them. And that is the Alice Oseman collection, starting with, I think, Solitaire. And this links to the Heartstopper books as well, or the graphic novels as well, which is first and foremost why I wanted to continue, because even though these are young adult and I don't read a lot of young adult anymore, I think reading Alice Oseman's work is just really nice, and it captures that young adult that I didn't have when I was growing up, which is very positive of found families and queer friendships. And so I missed all of that growing up, and now I can get it as an adult. So that is kind of the reason I'm continuing these. And while I do enjoy the writing style, it is not what I'm super obsessed with usually. So I'm giving them a try, and I've read Radio Silence, I've read this. So I do have I Was Born for This and Loveless left, and I'm not sure which one to start with next. I'll have to look up the publication order because they all came in a box set. So I have 2 more books in this series to read, and then I'll be complete with it. And then we have a book that I'm a little bit ashamed to say that I haven't continued yet because I really love this and it made my honorable mentions in my best books of 2022, but I haven't continued it as a series, so ultimate shame, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Look at this cover. How amazing is that? The foiling is next level. Anyway, this is a multiple perspective adult fantasy, and I just had my mind blown by the first 10 pages, and then it was a rapidly told story after that, but not in a way that lost me, in a way that engaged me and made me even more interested. So I'm really looking forward to continuing with Fevered Star, which is probably on the top of my TBR shelf, but I cannot see it in the viewfinder. So I'd like to continue this series this year, and I don't know if there's a sequel, and if so, when it will publish, but I'm still keen to continue this series. I'm excited about all of these, to be honest, so I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive. But Fevered Star also makes me a little bit nervous because I've heard that people loved the first book and didn't love the second as much. So I'm like, will I like it? And I think that's part of the reason that I've put it off, just because I'm really worried that I won't like it. But the only way to find out whether I like it or not is to read it. So I've got the audiobook now as well, because apparently having one format of a book that I haven't read is not enough for me. So I'm going to hopefully read it when I travel on the train to and from work. So here's hoping that I can get to it as soon as possible. The first half of the year would be ideal. Sorry also if you can hear the cockatoos in the background. Australian birds sound like they're trying to murder people. Then we've got another graphic novel, and this one made my favourite books of 2022, my best books last year. So this is going to be also a really easy one to continue the series for, because it is a very slim graphic novel, and that is The Tea Dragon Society, which is a very cute, cozy fantasy that I'm eager to pick up the next book for. And all of these are companions, they're not direct sequels. So you can jump in wherever you want, but for me, the first book was my favourite. I've read this one, and then I think it's the Tea Dragon Festival, but I'm not sure. I know the one that I haven't read has a red cover, so ideally I would like to get that one, but all of them have come out in hardcover and they're being re-released as their paperback copies, and I could only find all of them in a box set as hardcovers, and I want the paperback. So I don't know when that's coming out, and I hope that it is soon because I want to get it so that it matches my other editions. Now you know as much as me. I hope it comes out soon. And then we have a series that I have a lot of shame for because Dave and I are kind of trying to buddy read it, and we haven't really made time to do that. So we only got through 1 book last year, and we still have 2 left. So reading 2 books over the course of an entire year should not be that difficult. And the series I'm talking about is Dresden, and this is Skin Game, which we both read last year. Unfortunately, with the Dresden Files, this is the book that I've rated the lowest so far. It would probably be a 3 stars, and all of them have sat solidly at 4, 4.5, and mostly 5 stars. So I think, coupled with the fact that we're buddy reading this, which is slowing us down considerably, and also that this is the lowest rating I've given out in the series so far. Spoiler review is coming, I just haven't had time to script it properly yet, even though I've got all my notes. So I just don't feel the fire that I felt for Dresden, but I think that's partly due to the distance that I've given myself from it. And as soon as I started this, I was like, yes, we're in it, we're back here. And so when I start the audiobooks, I'm in. So I'm just procrastinating this, and I think it's because I'm nervous, because this one was not one that I loved. So I'm hoping that the others in the series, I'm sure they're going to be 5 stars. Like, they've got to be. They're so close to the finishing line, like they've got to be 5 stars. Also, if you didn't know, this is an urban fantasy set in Chicago about a wizard detective named Dresden. Then I started a new series that is an epic queer fantasy series with a lot of mental gymnastics involved in terms of all of the naming, the bloodlines and the body swapping and the demons, but it is worth your time because this is one of my honorable mentions, kind of like Black Sun from 2022 that I adored, and so I would like to continue it, but they're just very long books. So we've got Ruin of Kings and The Name of All Things, and these are massive. So when I have time, or when I can make time to continue a series that has 700 pages in each book, I will do so, because I do have the sequel here, A Memory of Souls, and I've heard that this has an epic scene in it that I am highly anticipating. I don't know too much about what the story involves, but I know that Kieran is our main character, and in the first book he is a thief trying to save up enough money to skip town, and while he's doing this he goes into a place and accidentally attracts the attention of the wrong person. That person is a demon. And while he's trying to escape the attention of this demon, he also runs across attention of the royal line. And so there is a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of world building and character development. And I just loved it so much. And it is definitely a meal. And so I'm really looking forward to starting this. There are 5 books in the series, so I'm kind of buying them as I go, because if I buy the whole series all at once, it's going to overwhelm me. So for now, I've just got this on my TBR cart, even though technically there are more books after it, but just cross your fingers for me, because this is going to take me a while. I just know it, but it is going to be worth the trouble. Then I started The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas, and I think this is a duology, so the sequel is coming out probably late this year. I think September, October is like that key time for new books to publish, and I think it's going to come out then, because The Sunbearer Trials came out last year, I think in September, so that kind of tracks. But it's a young adult story, and it follows this world where some people are humans, but others are kind of demigods and others are more revered and they have more power. And so these characters have to go on almost a quest together in order to figure out who the winner is. And I think the loser of all those trials is the one who gets sacrificed to Sol, their sun god. And that means that Sol is renewed for the next decade or something. So it's kind of Hunger Games-y in the sense that there is a whole bunch of teenagers in a trial. And the next book is marketed as If the Hunger Games and Percy Jackson Met. So I'm really looking forward to the continuation of this series, because I enjoyed the first book, but the elements that I wanted from it weren't as strong, and I think they're going to strengthen in the second book. Like, they were deliberately littered through to hook you for book 2. So obviously I'm being vague, but I'm looking forward to it, and I did this one on audio as well, so hopefully I can get the audiobook when the time comes. Now I've only got 2 books left, so the next one is a book that I started and then DNF'd or did not finish. And then I was like, no, I think the problem was me. Like, the problem wasn't the book. So I picked it up again and I finished it in a couple of days. So that goes to show that I did have the right instinct about this book, and I knew I was going to enjoy it because I do like Juno Dawson. And that book is Her Majesty's Royal Coven. And this is an urban fantasy about witches living in the modern day with a whole government agency attached to them to kind of maintain them. And it's about these friends who are, I think, young girls in the very first part of the book. And then you follow them again as they are adults, and they're trying to protect this prophesized child, because there is a prophecy where this child is going to bring doom and terror to the new world, and they want to stop that. So it does have transphobia in here, but in a way that works with the story. And I know that Juno Dawson is a trans woman, so she has represented this, I think, in a very smart way that also brings up dialogue, but in some ways has characters to support this person as well. So I think it's done in a very clever and very poignant way to make you think, which is why I think I struggled with it in the beginning with the writing style and the multiple perspectives. But ultimately, I obviously enjoyed this, and I'm glad that I stuck with it, because when you're in the right mood, you can devour a book like this, and that is what I did. I think I lied at the start because I said I had 13 series that I wanted to continue, and I think this makes it 14. And so the next one, I guess I didn't really read this in 2022, but I wanted to, and that is Legendborn. Well, it's the sequel, which is Bloodmarked. So that is on my to be read list as well, and I would like to continue this, I think, trilogy. I don't think it's a duology. So that is on my list too. Kind of like Memory of Souls, it is a very long sequel. It's probably almost 600 pages. I know it's over 500. So I need to just take my time with it and dedicate myself to reading it. And then the last book on this series, TBR, doesn't have a release date yet, but I am hankering for it. And that is the sequel to Silver Under Nightfall. I don't even think there's any announcement for this yet, but I still wanted to include it because I need it in my life. Polyamorous vampires in kind of like a post-apocalyptic medieval setting where there are different cities, but there's also this rot that is breaking out like a virus and infecting people and turning them into like vampire zombies. And then you've got royalty where Remy and the High Court vampires are involved to try and get down to who caused this virus and how to stop it. I need to reread this, I guess, because I don't think the sequel's coming out anytime soon, but a girl can dream. So that is all of the books that I want to continue the series for. If any of these are on your series TBR as well, let me know. And if there's a series that I've missed out that you think I should start, let me know as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.